Hey friends, income elasticity of demand, YED, measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded of a good to changes in income. And this is a bit different from our earlier definition of PD, whereby we track the changes in quantity demanded to changes in price. So imagine this. You learn that you receive a 20% pay raise. What do you do more of? And what do you do less of? Chances are you may reward yourself. You may start to buy more premium clothing, and you may buy fewer clothes from the discount rack because now you can afford it. Well, this example shows us how changes in income influences the quantity of certain goods that we demand, also known as income elasticity of demand. So the quantity we demand is influenced by income, not price, and therefore QD is dependent on the variable income. So now translating this into the formula, quantity demanded, which is the numerator, is influenced by income and not price. So now QD is the dependent variable as the Y value, with income being the dependent variable, which is the X value. And once again, responsiveness signals that these are responding or changing. Therefore, we reflect this in this triangle, and we reflect changes in terms of percentages instead of absolute values. Now, unlike PED, whereby we leave out the minus sign, the sign for YED values are important. So if the YED value is positive, it means that the quantity demanded is increasing as your income increases. And if the sign is negative, it means that the quantity demanded falls as income increases. This makes sense because when our income increases, we consume more of certain goods and less of certain goods. So when I say certain goods, what does it actually mean? Well, we can classify goods into two main groups. The first one being what we call normal goods, and the second group being inferior goods. Normal goods can be split into necessities and luxury goods. So for example, if the YED value is less than 0, as we see in this first bullet point, the good is an inferior good, and the demand for inferior goods and income move in opposite directions. So for example, if our income increases, chances are we will demand less quantities from the clearance or discount racks. Normal goods have a positive YED, which basically means that the YED is above 0, as you see in the second and third bullet points. So the quantity demanded for normal goods move in the same direction, but the extent of this change depends on whether the normal goods are a necessity or a luxury good. So if the YED value is between 0 and 1, it is a necessity, and if the YED value is more than 1, it is a luxury good. All of these really depend on the proportion of change in the quantity demanded to the proportion of change in one's income. So all three types of goods can be reflected in what we call an angle curve. And this particular diagram uses hot dogs as an example. So we see that YED is more than 0 on the upward sloping section of the curve. So from point A to point C. So quantity demanded and income are both increasing. And this indicates that the good is a normal good. But as you see from point C to point E, the quantity of hot dogs demanded falls as the income increases, and the angle curve goes backwards, right? So this indicates that the YED is less than 0 and that these hot dogs are now inferior goods. So this is how to visually represent the different income elasticities of demand on a diagram, namely the angle curve. So there are two key applications of income elasticity of demand. So understanding this theory and the angle curve helps us to understand the two key applications of YED, namely on firstly how fast certain industries expand as income rise, and the segments that make up an economy. So what does it mean exactly? For example, over the past decade, China's middle class has been growing quite significantly, which means that more and more people's incomes are growing. And as a result, they are demanding more normal goods or luxuries. So this affects two key groups of stakeholders, namely producers as well as the economy. If you think about it, on the producer front, many years ago, China's producers were primarily making textiles and agriculture. If you think about China today and the types of goods that Chinese producers are making today, they're making very high-tech goods, such as phones and electric cars. So understanding the YED of different goods enables producers to know what to produce. And what producers make will also affect that market's overall economy. As more producers shift away from agriculture to manufacture high-tech goods and services, the share of primary goods and commodities in an economy falls, while the share of manufactured outputs or services grows. So using China as an example, we see how understanding YED helps producers and the broader Chinese economy.